Hey everybody, Jane here, and today I'm doing a review of The Brave by James Bird. This book is about a boy who has a form of OCD. So his name is Colin, and whenever he hears words spoken to him, he adds up the numbers and has to say them. Like he just can't compulsively stop from saying them. And this is causing a lot of problems in his life. He's been kicked out of multiple schools, and he gets in a fight with a bully and is about to get kicked out again. His father is struggling with a lot of things, including alcoholism, and decides that he just cannot raise Colin any longer. And so he's going to send Colin to live with his mother, who he has never met before. His mother is a Native American who lives on a reservation. She is part of I want to say it's called a Ojibwa tribe, but I may be pronouncing that totally wrong, and I'm so sorry if I am. So his father packs him up and moves him to the reservation. He meets his mother. He finds out that he's got a little more family there than he was expecting. He also meets a girl next door who believes that she is going to become a butterfly. And he tries to start a new life on the reservation. This book I really struggled with. I really debated giving it a 2 out of 5, but I ended up giving it a 3 out of 5 because through most of the book, I had some issues, but I was having a good time. One of the biggest problems I had is I didn't realize going into this that this book was magical realism. So the end of the book, when everything weird, questionable, supernatural is just weird, questionable, and supernatural, I didn't love that answer. That was a really frustrating answer for me because I was not expecting it. I was expecting very real answers for what was going on, and there just wasn't. I mean, there was, but they were supernatural answers. So I think that was one of the biggest things. Had I known going in that this was magical realism, I might have been more comfortable with some of the things that happened in the book. Another issue I had, and I have this with a lot of middle grade books, is most of the adults in this book are terrible. And we see that a whole lot with Colin in his school. The teachers know he has a disorder even before his first day in the new school in the reservation. They don't bother to tell the students. They basically get him up in front of the class and kind of make him perform with his weird stuff. And it's just really frustrating. It's like, these are adults. They should have been able to tell the kids what's going on and to prevent a lot of the bullying that ends up being a result of him standing up in front of the class and saying all these numbers when the teacher is talking to him. And obviously he's been kicked out of multiple schools before, so a ton of adults just weren't doing their job. And I also kind of didn't always feel like that was totally realistic, because I know in our schools, they're working really hard to get people to be more aware of diversity, and they have like special parts of their class, my girls in school every day, about, feelings and emotions. And I'm just really surprised that Colin went through everything he did with school to the point of not even being able to make friends and getting bullied and thrown out just because of his number thing. So I did have some issues of how realistic that was, or potentially was. I hope that that wouldn't happen, and the fact that it did shows me that the adults were terrible, and I hate that trope in middle grade. Another issue I had with this book is there was definitely the feeling of the magical Native American. And I feel odd criticizing this book for it because James Bird is actually part Native American. He was not raised in the culture, but he is, by blood, the tribe that he portrays in here is my understanding. And I just felt, though, that it was one of those things where everybody who was Native American on the reservation was very wise and had all the answers. And it was very, everybody who was Native American was very much a Mr. Miyagi kind of character from The Karate Kid. And I think that is a trope that you see sometimes with the Native American characters, is the stereotype of, the wise, nature-oriented people. And I'm not saying that that's not true, but it just, I felt like this book took it to a point where I felt uncomfortable with it and it felt stereotypical and tropish. Also, I did read some reviews by people of this tribe who, one of them at least was by a tribe member, and a couple others were familiar with the tribe, familiar with the reservation that is being portrayed, and they said that a lot of the stuff was not accurate portrayal. So even though this is technically own voices, I had a problem with some of the portrayals of the Native American characters and just kind of the stereotyping that took place within this book. Another thing I will say is this is definitely intended, I would say, for an older middle grade audience. My daughter, who's 9, read it, and I think had I known the content of this book, I would not have encouraged her to read it. There's a lot of focus between the relationship that Colin starts to develop, the romantic relationship that Colin starts to develop with the girl next door. There are also some slightly off-color jokes, and at one point in the book, the bullying gets very extreme to the point that my daughter was very uncomfortable by some of it, the stuff that happened, and I was uncomfortable that, I'd encouraged her to read this book since I was reading it for the group read and it was middle grade and I thought it would be okay. So just have that caution if you are a parent and we're going to give this to a child. This might be a more appropriate book for 13, 14, not necessarily 8, 9. Unless they're very mature and, you're okay with a little bit of content. So that's the non-spoilery comments I have on this book. I did, as I said, enjoy a lot of the middle of it. I enjoyed Colin getting to know his mother, finding out some stuff about his situation. The magical realism ending really didn't work for me. So I'm going to go ahead and hop into some spoilers now of things that I want to discuss slightly more in detail about what I had an issue with. So, spoilers begin in 3, 2, 1. One of the things that happens while Colin is being bullied is that another boy pees on him. And I've met a lot of bullies when I was in school. My daughter has been bullied a little bit in school, and nobody's ever peed on us. And I thought that was just such a weird thing. I wasn't really sure why it was added in here, and I'm not really sure, again, why nothing was done and nobody noticed. And everybody here who has these almost supernatural powers, Colin's mother, his grandmother, who's actually a ghost, by the way, everybody just has these supernatural powers, and, nobody notices that Colin got peed on. Or doesn't say anything, or doesn't do anything, or doesn't have a problem with it. Because let me tell you, if my kid got peed on at school, I would be raising holy heck. And, the only thing that happens is at one point a gym teacher lets Colin get some very mild revenge, which again, another terrible adult who's not really doing the right thing. You're not teaching a bully to not bully by bullying the bully. So I had a real issue with the whole pee thing. Colin's dad, his character arc of, in the beginning, he drops Colin off, he doesn't really talk to him, and then at the end of the book, he calls and he's like, hey, I've turned my life around and now I want you to be part of it. I felt like that was so out of the blue and didn't work. To be fair, so much was out of the blue. His brother's a squirrel, the girl next door is a butterfly, and he fixes his OCD problem by a magical Indian ritual or Native American ritual where there is a wolf that he has to untie in a dream, like in a smoke dream in a teepee. It was just crazy. And I really just, like, with his dad, I felt like that was just thrown in there. And a lot of the other stuff felt thrown in there. I was really interested, the little girl who's turning into a butterfly. I understood she might believe that, she needed to believe that, she is dying of ALS. And I loved that story. I loved to see her getting sicker and her hope and her, bravery as she is terminally ill. But she really did turn into a butterfly, so I felt a lot less like bravery and more like, well, she's a butterfly. Her mom's a butterfly. It's all good. Her dad's gonna go visit her as a butterfly. It's fine. So I just, I had some issues with his dad, and his relationship there. Of course, the peeing. His grandma being a ghost was completely out of left field for me. I was not at all prepared for that. I didn't see why we had to knock up the dog, because at the end of the book, the grandma has been taking the dog on adventures, and it's like a whole big thing, and I don't know where she's taking her. I hadn't really thought too much about it. But, he notices his dog is getting fat. Well, that's because ghosty grandma has been taking the dog for a romantic rendezvous, which was completely unnecessary in the book. Just didn't need to be there. Just like some of the sexual innuendo between the mom and the mom's boyfriend didn't really need to be there for us to enjoy the book and to appreciate that Colin now has a decent stepdad. Better than his real dad. So it was things like that that really ticked me off in this book. I did like that there was representation, even though, like I said, with some of the Native American representation, I felt a little uncomfortable about the stereotyping. His brother is gay, and I really enjoyed that aspect of having a gay character, and it's very casual. We meet his brother's boyfriend. So there was good stuff in this book, but there was a lot that I wasn't loving. I just kind of wanted to pull my hair out by the end. So the only reason I ended up giving it a 3 was because I did genuinely like most of the journey. The ending and all the magic is real, and his brother's a squirrel, and the girl next door is a butterfly, and her mom's a butterfly, and grandma's a ghost, and our dog's pregnant now. There was no ghost involved in that. But, I couldn't. I did not enjoy that. All right, have you read The Brave? Did you read it as part of middle grade March? And were you aware going in that it was magical realism to the level that it is? What did you think of it? What did you feel about it? Did you enjoy it? Could you get past the weird stuff? Am I the only one who thought it was weird? What were your thoughts on this book if you read it? That's really all I have to say about it. If you enjoyed this video, please please subscribe if you are not already subscribed to me, and I will see you in the next video. Social media links are below. I am also a writer. If you would like to check out any of my books, there's a Goodreads link and an Amazon link. Thank you and have a good day.